This conference will now be recorded.
Or just say hello, good, you know. Yeah, I got your message the other day, but I was text. Uh-huh. Really? Yeah. So you didn't have to call him? Oh, a text or a message? Uh-huh. And they, well, the deal is over to your house and you can just squirt it with water. So because it was cracked, they could just.
And that little short side. Her vocabulary, I mean, she's one word. It makes sense. But she knows. That's great. FaceTime. Come see Nico today. Right.
You've seen that one? Okay, I'm now going to call this meeting of the Sweetwater City Council to order. Ask Councilman May to do the invocation this morning and have Councilman Castro lead us in the pledges.
Gracious Heavenly Father, we once again come to you, thanking you that you hear our prayers and answer our prayers. Father, today at this meeting, we pray that you will give us wisdom to do your will as we deliberate on this matter. Father, we thank you for your forgiveness that we have in Jesus Christ. Father, we continue to pray for right, that you will heal and bless our land. Send us what we need, Father. Thank you for answering those prayers. Father, we pray for this city. Pray for the citizens. Pray for our police and fire and give them protection. Father, thank you for all that you've done. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, this meeting will be closed to in-person attendance by the public. A temporary suspension of certain provisions of the Open Meetings Act to allow telephone and video conferencing public meetings has been granted by Governor Greg Abbott. These actions are being taken to mitigate the spread of COVID-19 by avoiding meetings that bring people into a group setting in accordance with Section 418.016 of the Texas Governmental Code. At this time, do we have any callers who wish to comment or emails that need to be read? None?
The answer to that is no, Mayor.
Thanks, sir. Okay, we'll now move on to item 5, which is review and discuss request for proposal received to manage and operate solid waste management services in the city of Sweetwater.
Okay.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. This is, as you stated, a workshop. The purpose of the workshop is to review requests for proposals that were submitted to operate and manage our solid waste management service for the city of Sweetwater, and to also potentially consider a vendor for that. This meeting would allow for that, the way that the agenda is currently written. And the proposals were to operate and manage our residential refuse collection, our commercial refuse collection, and our roll-off container program. That's really 3 parts to our solid waste management services. We still have 2 landfills, and we have a drop-off center for recycling that is not part of the request for proposals. We had asked for proposals earlier this year to be received June 26th for this. And in that, we had some specifics on what we were asking for from a potential vendor. We did receive a proposal from Republic Services, and through the discussions that we previously had regarding this item, we also, the city of Sweetwater, submitted an RFP. The importance there is, what would it take for the city to continue with the program? What would that take? And then we would have an apples to apples comparison between, in this case, Republic Services and the city of Sweetwater. So we've got really two vendors that are looking at operating and managing our solid waste management services. I want to make sure that. Just a couple things. We had a presentation last year that really got into some of the program issues that I guess we all see, or maybe I saw a little bit more and just advised the council back then. And so I would probably state this as, in my opinion, in my review of the program, in taking into account input from other staff and the council as we've gone through this process. Without having any pictures, basically some of the program issues are the location of the multi-household refuse containers, those 3-yard containers in the alleys. They have over the years become dumping grounds for debris and bulk items. I think that's very clear. That's a program issue that we have. And the reason for that is we don't have an organized debris and bulk items pickup program with our refuse collection. We might have been doing that in the past, maybe using inmate labor and that type of thing, and that program went away. So we have been more reactionary in what we're doing. So we get a call from a citizen, I've got stuff by the dumpster, I've seen cats and all kinds of stuff hanging out that I don't want to see in my neighborhood. So when we get those calls, that's kind of problematic, and we're in a reactionary mode cleaning up those areas rather than a proactive mode, picking them up on a recurrent basis. In addition, we have poor property maintenance around the residential refuse containers. And again, those are the 3-yard containers, and they're the ones that are located in the alleys and the ones that are located in the streets. We have had some issues over a number of years. In particular, I've got some numbers out here for the last 5 years as it would relate to collection or garbage collection truck maintenance. The breakdown, residential and commercial, the total is over the last 5 years, not including anything that was pending right now, which we have some pending items now, almost $500,000 just on maintenance costs on our collection trucks. We have 7 collection trucks. 6 of them are over 10 years of age. I think the newest one is a 2016. Is that? Russell may be able to answer that. That's
our newest one has a little over 300,000 already.
Okay.
It averages about 100,000 a year. That is our commercial truck. So it's making a lot more trips than the residential trucks are.
Yes, thank you for that, Larry. Thanks, Russell. So again, staff is too often placed in a reactive mode due to the lack of resources from the standpoint of keeping our trucks maintained to a level that they should be. No fault to anybody who works for the city of Sweetwater. The resources are needed to do that. The staffing is needed to do that from a skills standpoint. And the program is somewhat disjointed because we have a number of departments having a piece to that program, and it's just not coordinated as well as it should be. Although I think we've made great strides in the last year doing that, but it still has been a problem, and I think that that's why we're at where we are today, in my opinion. So in the RFP, really what we're looking at is proposing some changes to how we do refuse collection. Number one, and this is probably the biggest one I've heard, is removing our 3-yard multi-household refuse containers from the alleys and in the street right of way, and replacing those with 95-gallon poly carts, where each resident would get a poly cart rather than having a 3-yard kind of a multi-use household use container. It would be removed again from the alleys and the street. We'd also want to add a brush and bulk program. So we want to get ahead now of the debris and the brush and the pileups that we have in the alleys, to have part of this program on a monthly basis, where you know what day they're going to come and pick it up, and there's rules on what you have to do in terms of how they're bundled and weight. But it would be something that the residents would know is coming, they could plan for it, and it would get picked up. And all refuse and brush bulk pickup would be in the front yards. So we're removing the alleys from any refuse collection pickup, whether it be the container, tipping, or any of the brush and bulk. We're thinking that that is going to have an effect on getting, removing the debris pileups and so forth. Although I think that would probably take some time to get there, but that's an issue that we need to address. So general benefits, public health and safety, I think that's a given. I think you just have to go out there and see what we have out there, and we've got some issues from a public health and safety standpoint. These program modifications would provide or improve community beautification. I really believe that that's the case, and I think that's been the case in cities that have started a program like this and have been doing it for years. That's been a real benefit. And the biggest one that I see, quite honestly, I mean, public health and safety is important, don't get me wrong, but long-term program sustainability is vital. You have to have the ability to get it done consistently, dependably, and that's really what we're trying to do. Whether the city does it or whether it's outsourced, that is the objective here, is to get a program that we can hang our hat on, and it's got some long-term sustainability, it's got some consistency. Yes.
It says that the refuse and bulk pickup is in the front yard areas, but the poly cart pickup will be where the driveway is, if it's in the alley versus street.
It'll be in the front yard, near the driveway typically is where the containers are. Yeah, I think we've talked about that. So that would be part of the program too. So I think whatever makes sense, and Joe might touch on that a little bit at some point, but I remember the discussions that we had. If it's your only driveway, if that's the only access you have to the property, then I think we probably pick it up at that location. Yeah, that I'm correct on that.
100%, that's correct.
So the request for proposals, I'm going to go through a couple items here, very important, because this is what we had to submit. This is our scope of work. First, the vendor, whether it be in this case, the City of Sweetwater or Public Services, has to furnish all material and equipment. Thanks, David, I saw it. Furnish all material and equipment necessary to service for solid waste collection and disposal. That would also include labor for servicing solid waste management under a contract. The RFP asked for 1 and 2 curbside residential collections, rates for those collections and disposal. Providing commercial services on what we call a predetermined schedule, meaning we do it here. We have a predetermined schedule with our commercial businesses, how many times they'd like to have, how big of a container they have and how many times they get it picked up per week. That would continue. We would provide in this program new and replacement carts to residents. That'd be commercial and residential. And again, the residential would be the 95-gallon poly carts. As part of the service, providing the following containers and service at no charge to the city. It would be 20 hauls per year for 40-yard roll-off containers. So that would be at our discretion. We do it now. If vendor does it for us, we still have that discretion on where. 40 dumpsters for city uses, whatever those uses might be, and 2 permanent roll-off containers at the city drop-off center. So people can still drop stuff off at the recycling center. We still maintain our landfills. That would not change at all. We have an agreement also with the City of Snyder landfill. That agreement has not been, it certainly would be at least 180 days to request it to be expired. So if it's outsourced, that agreement is in place and would have to be maintained until maybe it expires or there was another alternative on removing ourselves from that agreement. We would have special pickup for Nolan County Fairgrounds because we have an interlocal agreement with the county to do so. So for big events and so forth, we would still have that pickup. It'd be special pickup as part of this contract, as we currently do with the city. Providing pickup at all city facilities at no charge to the city. I don't know how many facilities we have. Russell, you probably have that number. I'm not going to ask you for it, but whatever facilities we have, you know, our water treatment plant, our service center, and that type of thing. Providing a special collection assistance program for the physically unable. That we talked about that. That would be assisting those that are unable to get the cart from the house to the curb and back. And that would be part of this program also. There'd be a customer service office to facilitate service, meaning if we get complaints, we can refer those off. We take them right now because we run the program and we deal with it. If it was a vendor that had that they would deal with it. We would probably get some calls, but we would be able to refer that off to their customer service office to handle those issues. If there's any transportation or storage facility needs, they would have to provide that on their own. They have to pay all applicable local, state, and federal taxes and charges, as we do, including a solid waste levy fee, if there is a levy fee. I mean, all those fees and charges would be paid for through the contractor. Submittal of an operation plan for service delivery. In this case, the city residential customers would be billed by the city as they currently are. If it's outsourced, we would still bill our residential customers and collect from our residential customers. If it's another vendor, they will deal with the commercial businesses on their own. They will schedule pickup times, sizes of containers. All the billing is done through the vendor. That's something we currently do. We would not be doing it if it got outsourced. That would be something we would not do. So that goes through in summary. Doesn't look like much of a summary, it's a lot of bullet points, but that's really what the program is about. So I hope there's an understanding really of what we're trying to accomplish at this point in time. We've got some problems. We want to address those problems. So about a year and a half now, we've been kind of dealing with this. And so we're looking at some other alternatives. And that's really where we're at today. As part of the RF, and I don't know, Joe, if you want to get up. At this point, I would ask Joe if it's okay, if he'd like to say anything.
Sure, good morning.
Morning.
Joe Spano, Municipal Manager for Republic Services for our West and Central Texas division. I've met most of you over the last 18 months. I think there was a couple of new ones and I haven't had the pleasure with you yet, but most of you sat through the original presentation where we really did a deep dive. And so I really just wanted to answer any questions, right? I want complete transparency, and I don't want anybody to leave this room today with an unanswered question. And so, you know, please feel free to fire off. I would like to just answer the one that I wrote down right quick, concerning the driveways, right? And so we understand the driveways are, in a lot of cities, are located in different spots. The majority of them, especially on the newer homes, are going to be in the front by the street. And so typically, your service, the point of service is going to be at the edge of your driveway, right? A little bit off the curb. If you have a home that has an alley and that has a driveway in the alley, obviously that's where we're going to be servicing it. We don't have the expectation of somebody dragging their poly cart and their bulk across their grass or across their landscape or whatever it is, right? So the driveway will be where everybody is going to be serviced. And our operations folks will work with Russell and staff on best placement on certain neighborhoods. The good thing is you already have some poly carts in some places, so it's not going to be a major change for those folks. But we will work through the portions of town that have driveways and alleys. Other than that, we tend to not go down alleys for a myriad of reasons, as you can understand. Huge liabilities, both for us and for you, right? The power lines tend to be lower in some of these neighborhoods, and you think of a garbage truck at 13.6 without tucking a bucket, there's and fences, and they're just not made right. The United States isn't getting, the people aren't getting smaller, so the trucks aren't getting smaller, right? They're only getting bigger. So the trucks they're not designed anymore for alleys, unless it's a rear load pickup, which isn't what we're proposing. So this is going to create a really uniform look to the city, and I think your citizens will be really happy with it, especially with that monthly bulk pickup. It's gonna resolve a headache for staff, that's for sure, with this bulk, if you decide to go that route.
And I'll ask a question because I know it's on somebody. I know that Dr. Peak asked of me, and actually the animal carcasses is something we discussed at an earlier time, and that would be part of a contract too. I think that right now we have a situation where we have that, and then we dispose of them, but that would be part of a disposal contract as well.
Yeah. So on the resident, you're talking about on the residential side?
Well,
But they're animal control.
yeah.
Through animal control, we generate from the shelter, their animal bodies.
Right. Right.
And I just want to make sure that option is still available.
It is, yeah. So we'll help you. We'll help guide you through that. We'll see exactly what carcass we're talking about. If it's something that needs to be profiled, if you're just talking about somebody's cat or, yeah. So it's really not a problem.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Joe. So again, because it's a workshop, we're looking at two options at this point. One is Republic Services RFP and the City of Sweetwater's RFP. And so before I start into the tables, those are very busy tables. We'll just focus on a little bit of it. And one thing I want to mention is initially I gave you tables as part of this meeting, and these are adjusted now because I made a mistake on the ones that I sent out. Actually, I had higher rates than I should have on Republic Services because I thought they gave me base rates, and they gave me rates with 12% franchise fee. So I didn't pick that up until a couple days ago. So, but we kind of worked through that. And so the rates you have here are fairly close. It's me putting together what was provided, and then I have calculated, again, approximate franchise fee rates or rates associated with various franchise fees, because as part of the collection for residential, commercial, and so forth, the city can increase the fee paid out by a customer by a certain amount, which is a franchise fee. That's over and above what we would pay for the service. So if it's Republic Services getting a contract, there's a base rate. And then there's a rate with a 10% add-on, a 12%, 15, and 18 associated with here. The difference between the base rate and what the increase would be on a franchise fee would be for the city to collect, or the city to get as a revenue source. So in comparing the two programs and with the RFP, we are looking at really essentially new vehicles, new carts, everything pretty much new to begin with. That is on Republic Services proposal, and it's also with the city of Sweetwater. So as we were looking at what we were trying to do and trying to get apples to apples, oranges to oranges, our proposal with the rates that I have here include 2 residential refuse collection trucks, 1 commercial collection truck, a backloading truck that would be for the brush and bulk pickup program, and new polycart containers for all residents. I don't have the numbers there, but basically it's to bring the program up with the infusion of capital to bring it up to a level that we haven't had this program up to in a long time. That is part of what you'll see in our rates to pay for that. And also what you'll see, and I should probably state that at this point in time, under the city of Sweetwater proposal, because we were looking at what we currently have for revenue and what we currently have for expenditures and really taking a very detailed look at that, we would have to, at least one option is to increase the commercial rates by 15% across the board, commercial rates and roll-off container rates by 15%, and add another $1 onto the landfill fee where it's currently $2 per household to go to $3. So what you see here is based on that. That's part of what we would need to do. And if we do that, we will balance pretty closely from a revenue and expenditure standpoint. But again, what that also does is we don't really have a brush and bulk program. We are adding that in too. So we want to be the same as what the RFP is asking. We want to abide by the RFP and to be comparable to, in this case, Republic Services as part of the program.
With the city of Sweetwater's calculation, do you have factored in it a franchise fee going back to the general fund?
Yes, we have. In fact, we were looking at some numbers, and so yeah, it'll be part of the franchise fee too. Yeah, I wish that maybe we hadn't included that, then we would be in a better situation, but that does take into account what we would receive. Great question.
What franchise fee rate did you calculate for the city of Sweetwater?
I think we went with a 12% franchise fee rate. We were trying to really be consistent with what we were asking for. So the RFPs asked for 2 things, a 12% franchise fee rate on the residential side and a 15% franchise fee rate on the commercial side. And so when we came in with our proposal, we figured a 15% increase in commercial. It's not the same as what it would be for Republic Services in this case with the franchise fee at 15%. But we felt that we needed to do that, and that was probably the best place to do that because it had been a number of years since that fee was really looked at. On the other hand, the residential fees have been updated periodically over time, so that's just something that we felt that was just a no-go at this point in time. But it would balance pretty closely with the add-on and what we calculated for franchise, or for, I should say, revenue basically coming in.
Dana, since we're talking about franchise fees, the council has the authority to set the franchise fees at whatever percent that they feel comfortable with, right? It's not just 12 or 15, it can be any number that they're comfortable with. Is that correct?
Yes, my understanding is, and that's why I, on these charts, if you look at that top row, based on the rates It's all based on rates. So what we've calculated, and I don't have the actual totals for the numbers, but what the rates would look like at a 10%, 12%, a 15%, and an 18% franchise fee rate that we would receive if it went to Republic Services. And what I want to maybe clarify a little bit for Larry is, you know, the city, we don't really get a franchise fee if we run the program ourselves. It's just revenue generated from the fees that the customers pay. So my number, when I'm answering your question, is really more what we see as revenue coming in. Same, and it goes to the same thing.
Proprietary funds, all of our
Right.
proprietary funds pay franchise.
Yes, and that to cover all the costs of our solid waste management, right? And then some. Honestly, that's really how it works. In this case, we think that we're okay, but and I have the number in my head with the capital costs, with the trucks, with the carts, that would be on a loan, 7-year payout, about $173,000 a year for 7 years, just to pay for those costs is what we calculated in. Now, at the end of 7 years, you would think you're okay, but honestly, you're back on your capital improvement program. So you're already in need to purchase some additional trucks to keep up. Again, that long-term sustainability, I think, unfortunately, where we are right now is we haven't been able to keep up with our trucks. And I'll give you an example. Russell might help me. We're pending. There's a pending issue right now with one of our trucks that we're holding on to about a $30,000 repair that we've held back at this point in time. It's one of our major trucks that we didn't want to do anything with at this point. But so that's not even included in that 5-year maintenance numbers that I gave you. Those are just, they seem to be coming more and more and more because of the age of the trucks. And so that's why we wanted to take a look at what it would be to increase, the fleet, get a brand new fleet. So in that case, what we calculated too was, well, that'll have something to do with our maintenance. So we've trended out our maintenance over the, few years. So that should come down. So we've kind of calculated that into it as well. Then it'll go back up over, 3 or 4 years. But anyway, we did a pretty thorough job on that. And I'm pretty confident that if we were to do the program, we would be able to do it. My concern would be in 7 years, are we back to this table again, considering other capital costs and doing it all over again? That's the concern I have. I have to look at the long term. And so anyway, as it would relate to the rates, and what I have up on the screen is you'll see the 2 bids. You'll see Republic Services, it's the second column. You'll see the City of Sweetwater, it's the last column. I have those bolded mainly for my purposes to get through this, but the rate provided by Republic Services as part of what we were requesting with the RFP was at a 12% franchise fee. The rate comes in at about $19.21 for once a week pickup. That does not include brush and bulk at this point. Our rate, we could do for $20.25 for just pickup. Again, 95-gallon carts, every residence. If we added a 2-week program, 2 times a week, then Republic Services rate is $28.17, and ours is practically double of what our 1 time a week pickup would be. And that's without brush and bulk.
Can I ask a question? What about?
Joe, can you ask on the mic?
Yeah.
So I was listening, please.
Yeah, sorry, just a quick, so what I wanted to ensure is that on the city rates, on your own answer to the proposal is, it's easy to remember to calculate your maintenance costs and your initial capital. I want to ensure that y'all remember that you still have disposal costs, and I would imagine that's in those rates as well.
It's all included in the rates. Because we do that now. So it's all included in there. Good question. I mean, but yeah, and it basically, you'll see that what we generate for revenue will pay for all of that as part of the program. I'm going to drop down and to talk a little bit about an additional cart. That's an important part to this program. The 95-gallon carts are certainly, what happens to a resident is you have a 3-yard container, 3 yards, and then you have a 95-gallon cart. 95-gallon cart is about a half a yard. So essentially you're losing a little bit of space for trash, although it's yours, right? You don't have to go down the alley and use the 1 3 down because that one's full, but you have the ability to get an additional cart, and that additional cart fee is $9.60 for Republic Services. It would be $11.28 as our fee schedule provides for now. I think the point I want to make is that an additional cart does bring in additional franchise fee. So I think the numbers I'm hearing is that probably 15% or so, give or take, of the residents in the city of Sweetwater will purchase an additional cart. So franchise fees, as we would project at this point in time, are all based on 1 cart per household. So that number will probably go up. So that's kind of what we're looking at. I mean, I just wanted to make that point because the additional carts are available to residents. The other point is, and again, this is in-city service. I should have pointed that out. We've got 3,441 customers in our in-city refuse collection program for residential. As it would relate to brush and bulk pickup, 1 time a week, brush and bulk pickup, as proposed by Republic Services, is $23.69, give or take. Okay, that's what we're looking at. The city of Duncan would be $24.85, which is the current rate that we charge customers. So fairly comparable rates. We are adding brush and bulk pickup to that $24.85 rate. We make up for everything on the commercial end of the increasing by 15%. Keep that in mind. So we wanted to keep the residential rate the same. We felt that that was not a good idea to raise that rate. But part of that is to increase our landfill fee by $1. So the rate does go up for customers by $1 on the landfill fee per our proposal. So the comparison is for 1 week at time, 1 week pickup and brush and bulk, which is once a month, it'd be $23.69 for Republic Services and $24.85 for the city of Sweetwater. And I think that those are the key numbers. I would say that additional carts, you want 2 carts, it's going to cost you an extra $9.60 monthly. If you want 2 carts, it's going to be $9.60 times 2, about $18, $19 more on a monthly basis for your bill. One change, I think it's a change, and I guess Patty would clarify, but under multifamily and trailer parks, I think we treat that as a residential rate under a program that would be proposed by Republic Services. That would be a commercial rate. It would be under a pre-schedule, just like they do for commercial businesses. We don't do that. We bill the number of units you have by 80%, and then you get the 20, whatever the 19 or whatever rate we have. $20.64 would be that rate. What the change would be if it went to Republic Services, they would treat it as a commercial business, and that's how it would be rated out. We would continue it as a multifamily residential the way we currently do under our fee schedule. And they would still bill at 80% anyway. I think, is how it would probably work out. So it doesn't, the impact is a little bit more on multifamily as it would relate to the rates. What I have is $21.29 for public services and $20.64 for the city of Sweetwater. And that's under our current fee schedule. That's a lot of stuff up on that table. I just pointed out really the 12% franchise fee rates. Obviously, as city manager had mentioned, the city council can go with any franchise fee rate that you feel is needed or important. You could go down to a 10. You could go stay at the 12. You could go to the 15, 18, any rate. And the idea is that, you know, we have some additional, we have other costs. Like I said, we've got to maintain our landfills, and we've got our drop-off center, recycling center that we still have to maintain. So that was in the RFP. I put the other stuff out there, the 15 and the 18 as it would rate. So if you look at the rates, you'll see what they would be like with a 15% and an 18% franchise fee rate. They're higher, but we would generate more franchise fee to cover more of our costs. So it just comes down as simply as that.
And what's our current driver situation?
I'm gonna have Lisa answer because we talked about that this morning.
Here you go.
She'll give you the detail. I think I know it, but I don't want to misstate it. So
We have 5 drivers right now, and 2 of them are eligible to retire, and we have 3 that have less than 5 years.
And you did say that Republic would get a look at them anyways. I mean, that y'all would be willing to at least look at and employ them.
Absolutely, right? So we would need drivers, just like, you know, we would put a rec out for drivers anyway, right? So the caveat would be these folks would have to be willing to make the commute back and forth, right? So
I understand.
because we currently do not operate overnight inside the city, right? For a maintenance problem, right? We don't do take home trucks anywhere in the nation, right? So our trucks go home every night and get checked out. So they would have to have a commute.
They can carpool though.
They could absolutely carpool if they have the same duty shifts and things like that, you know, but they would absolutely get a chance, right? So privatizations all over the country, one thing that we want to do is take care of the people, internal and external, right? And we want your folks to be happy, and we would absolutely offer them employment with an excellent company. They just would have to make that commute.
Thank you,
Mr.
Lisa.
Painter, while you're up there, I have a question. Along this similar lines, would there be any, have there been any discussions within your team about maybe a yard here in Sweetwater at some point?
So when we first started to talk to the city of Sweetwater, I guess it's been probably 18 months ago. I know we've been doing this a long time. So the future, right? When you look at the I-20 corridor, we're always looking to grow, and we are always looking to tuck in. We're always looking for good companies to tuck in. We're always looking for good privatization opportunities with cities. There's a lot of activity on the I-20 corridor. So the answer would be absolutely, right? As we continue to grow, we are always going to need, depending on, and especially out here in West Texas, right? We have a long way to go between cities. And so we've got 41 of them that we run out of our division. And so it is an absolute possibility, right? We're always going to be looking for places that we can maximize how efficient we can be for all of our customers, right? And in this case, all of our cities. So obviously, I don't work in the real estate division, so I couldn't tell you that it's going to happen in the next year or two. But I can tell you, as we grow, we have a satellite outside of our Midland Odessa office, which is in Coahoma. So we do have these smaller divisions that have full maintenance and things of that nature. So as we continue to grow in this area, we're always going to be looking on how we can maximize efficiency.
Question regarding your trucks.
Sure.
Since they're used in the fulfillment of government contract, are these trucks exempt from property tax, or are they on the tax rolls?
They are on the tax rolls. Yeah, not exactly. Maybe in the future, right? Yeah, they're not here, obviously. There's a couple of things, if I may, Dana, that are there's a couple of things that when Dana was speaking that were kind of coming to me. And one thing I want to try to make a little bit more clear, the franchise fee, those can get a little muddy, right? Especially when we start looking at what's the base rate and what's 12, 15, and 18 and things of that nature. So there is another way, just to plant the seed, there's another way to handle the quote unquote franchise fee. Y'all can do whatever you want, right? So one thing you can do that some cities like to do because it's cleaner is, because the way the franchise fee works is, and this is just for easy math. If Republic bills you $10,000 a month, right? Then you're going to pay that $10,000. Then we're going to send you a check for the franchise fee. So the cleanest way to do it, in my opinion, is, since y'all you bill it, is you could take Republic's base rate, right? And if the city manager and staff are given the opportunity to negotiate a contract with Republic, the 3 or 4 or 5 of us can come up with what is that actual base rate. I mean, it's pretty close. It's up here. We just have two different Excel models going. So I think the cell is off by a few cents, but be that as it may, whatever that base rate is, let's say it was $10, okay? If you take a $10 base rate and forego a franchise fee, then y'all can just work on margin, right? So if you take a $10 base rate, y'all can just bill the customer. And again, I made up that $10 rate. Don't get excited. We don't have $10 trash. But if you take a $10 rate, that to the curb price, right, is $15, and y'all just keep the 5. And it creates a cleaner way, and you get the same effect of the franchise fee. But then you don't have to worry about, well, is it 18? Is it 15? You know, we're going to cut you a check after you cut us a check. And sometimes that's a cleaner way to do it. I just want to plant the seed. Y'all can do whatever you'd like. It's the same money. It just depends on how clear is the water, right? I think it's a cleaner way to do a markup, $15 a home or whatever that looks like. And then Republic sends you a bill for the residential service. You pay the bill, and then the rest is profit, or you know what I'm saying? The rest is yours. So the other thing is, and I already asked Dana about the disposal piece. And the reason why I asked that is I was in another city a couple of months ago, and one of the council members said, you know, look, I really like this, that, and the other, but we're still stuck with this $210,000 disposal. How are we going to do that? And that goes away, right? So the disposal's on us. And so I think you guys spend $120,000. I think I had it. So last year in 19, you spent $126,000 just with us at the Abilene landfill, right? That's a cost that goes away. And sometimes when we start getting into the nuts and bolts of what the RFP states, I mean, there's just a lot, especially on a 156-page RFP or whatever it was, right? So there's a lot in there, but there's a lot of expense that you currently have that goes away. Particularly all the things that Dana just talked about, buying trucks and carts and keeping them up, and maintenance and customer service and things like that. The customer service piece, you will still handle the customer service piece from the residential customers because they're your customer, you're billing it, right? So if somebody calls needing something, then those get worked out through what we call a work order, right? You send a work order into to the designated party that we have in Abilene, and then they take care of it. So if somebody orders an extra cart, you're not doing it. It's going on a work order for that day or week or however, you know, we're out here 5 days a week. So, and that's how that would work. The commercial piece, y'all don't have to do anything. You wouldn't be able to anyway, because if McDonald's called and said, hey, we were really busy over the weekend and I need an extra pickup, there would be no way that y'all could schedule that, right? So our customer service handles all of that, and we're open much, much longer than city offices are open, and more days. So handling customer on the commercial end is y'all don't have a worry in the world about that. It's all on us. The only thing y'all have to do is pick up the phone. If somebody's emailing you or Facebook, and you just pick up the phone and you call one of us, right? I mean, you don't have to worry about handling that end of it. But I just wanted to remind you about the disposal end. There's some expenses that when and if you privatize, there's a lot of expense that's just going to go away. And I just wanted to make sure, sometimes we get muddied up with franchise fees. But I also wanted to plant that seed about, you don't have to have a franchise fee on your residential portion. You can just work straight up off of a markup.
Okay, thanks, Joel. Kind of went over a little bit. We went over in city. Again, we have 3,441 customers in city. We have 155 out of city customers, and these are just the rates. It would be for an out of city customer. They're a little bit higher basically than it would be for an in city, just same as what we currently have. Ours are higher for out of city customers. The one thing I guess is the out of city customers tend to have the 95-gallon poly carts by the city currently. But it would continue that with the new program. So again, for an out of city customer, the rate proposed here by Republic Services is $22 at a 12% franchise fee, $22.57, where our rate is currently 23, or it'd be $23.78. Additional cart is the same. Brush and bulk pickup, you can see that's a little bit more. It's $5.42 with Republic Services at 12%. Base rate, it's less than what we would be, and we're at $5. So I guess if you have a one-time week pickup and brush and bulk, it's about $28 you pay as a customer. If it's Republic Services, you pay $28.78 as if the city of Sweetwater is providing for your refuse collection. So I guess the only point I would make on that is these rates are higher than the in-city rates by a little bit. And so it's reflected in the tables. The other part, and this is busy, I'm glad I gave you all charts here to look at, but the commercial rates, there's a lot of information here, but basically the program is you request on a schedule a certain size container, a 2-yard, 3-yard, 4-yard, 6-yard, or 8-yard that we have, and how many times you want that picked up per week. That determines what you pay for that service. And all I did here was to compare the Republic Services proposal to the city of Sweetwater. I have also put a current rate. Current rate is the second column. This is what we charge for commercial containers. For instance, if you get a 3-yard, well, we'll go off the 2-yard. If you get a 2-yard container one time a week, it's $45.40. So it's always based on the times, by the cubic yards, the size of the container by the times you get it picked up per week. It's a very detailed way to look at rates. What I would probably do is point you to the column under Republic Services at the 15% franchise fee, because that's what we requested for in the RFP. And you'll see, just looking at the rates down the column and compared then to the city of Sweetwater rates, and the city of Sweetwater rates include a 15% increase. And that is to help pay for the entire program. So that's really the comparison. Overall, the city of Sweetwater's rates are higher by a certain percentage. Very lower, it's a lower percentage, but we're higher. For instance, a 3-yard container, 1 time a week pickup is $70.60 as proposed by Republic Services. It's $76.18 with a 15% increase, City of Sweetwater. So with the 15% increase and just taking a look at, one to the other, the City of Sweetwater is going to be higher on every one of them. If you went with the current rate, they would be lower or pretty close to what Republic Services is proposing. But the 15% bumps them up over what's being proposed by Republic Services. So that's kind of the comparison there. I think the point I want to make is we've got to increase these rates to make to balance our budget, to provide for all the services that we have to, including the 2 landfills. At this point, hopefully 1 at some point in time in the next 6 months, but and the drop-off center. The other thing about this is we do have a cost that it's reflected in here, but so we have in my office, we do the scheduling on the commercial program, and that would go away if it was outsourced. That would be something that, in this case, Republic Services would do that. That would free up a little time with the assistant and code enforcement to do some other things and not have to deal with the commercial scheduling of pickups.
Dana?
Yes.
I have a couple questions for you. Number one, there's a lot of people that don't pay water bills, don't pay trash collection. What's gonna happen to those people's waste that they don't have containers, or where's that trash gonna go? And my second question is, I see a lot of times people, I guess they live out in the country, they don't pay trash, so they use people's dumpsters. Where are they gonna put their trash? Where's that debris going? Are they just gonna throw it in the creek, or? I mean, I know,
Yeah.
I see it all the time. I see people unloading trash into our dumpsters, and I was just, maybe I should have brought that up a long time ago, but that's a concern I have. That's one of them.
That is definitely something that I've been made aware of. I think in city, we're pretty good. We've got, you have to have trash service. If you got water, it's pretty much set. And in this case, we'd make sure that everybody has a container and they have trash service. In the outside of city limits is a little bit different because you could contract with whoever you want to in the ETJ. Some people don't contract with anybody.
Right.
So what happens is they end up taking it over to the lakes where we have refuse containers, or they do, like you said, they put it somewhere else. Or what we found out is they've come in the city and dumped them in our, for commercial. That's happening. We don't have, what we should have is something set up with the county to make sure that each customer or each folk that lives out in that ETJ has to have a trash account. And we could each get that set up with us if they were willing. So now they have to have a trash service. That's not been done. And we don't even do that with our leases, right? We should do that with our leases. And we talked about that, to add that to it, make sure that that's required. That's an issue. That was brought up to me by a commissioner also. What about what's going to happen if we don't have the containers at the parks and so forth? Then what's going to happen? Well, it's something we have to solve. I wish I had an answer for you other than we need to make sure, probably work with Nolan County, that they have to have trash service. We could request that it be under our program, whoever runs it. I think that that's something we need to do. But that'll be a problem until we solve it. But I think we know how to go about tackling it.
Okay, thank you.
More detail, but I guess the only thing I'd like to say here is a comparison again. This is out of city service for some of our commercial businesses. Obviously, most of ours is in the city, so the rates are about the same as they would be in comparison. The rate will definitely go up from what our current rate is. It'll go up more if the city of Sweetwater manages the customers out in the commercial, with the commercial businesses across the board compared to Republic Services proposal. And that again, I want to state that's because of the 15% increase that we would be looking at seeking from the council through our fees schedule to cover the cost. It's the only reason that it's really higher like that. Otherwise, it'd be pretty consistent, I think, with what Republic Services is proposing. So pretty even, pretty even. I only have one more slide, and I really apologize for all the numbers, but it's important. This is our roll-off program, roll-off container set. So if you're a businessman, you're doing a roof, you don't want to set a container on your property or a property that you're doing work on, there's a charge. And with the city of Sweetwater, it's normally type 4 waste. It can go to our landfill. That's not always the case because we end up, it's contaminated. We take it over either to Abilene or to Snyder. And there's an additional fee. Under the program as proposed by Republic Services, it's actually pretty straightforward, to be honest. It's a distance to bring the container to Sweetwater, and it's the disposal of what's in that container. So the travel and so forth all combined is for a 20, a 30, and a 40, all the same rate, $534 to have it brought here and brought back to Abilene. And then you have to pay for what the tonnage is on the inside of that container. So there's no differentiation whether you have a 20-yarder, 30-yarder, or 40-yarder. It's all pretty much the same. So if you got a 20-yard container, you're a business person, you're doing a project, it'll be $614.10 for that container. And that's, a lot of that cost is bringing it here. It's the travel, the hauling. So that's the rate for the roll-off program, whereas the city, and again, this is going to a type 1 landfill, whether it's type 1 waste or type 4. So that's included in the cost of the disposal. The city of Sweetwater with a 20-yard container have it for $2. If it's type 4 waste, it's not contaminated, it'd be $343.39. Significantly less than what is proposed by Republic Services. But if it's contaminated, then it bumps up to $653.89, getting closer to what's proposed by Republic Services. Actually goes over that amount. So that's kind of the comparison there. I think if we were to talk about type 1 waste only, it's fairly comparable. The city of Sweetwater's rates are, with the 15% increase, are going to be a little bit higher than what Republic Services is proposing for a rate, the 15% franchise fee. If it's just type 4 waste, no contamination, we can take it to our own landfill, it's a lot less. We have now and then somebody that puts waste in there that's contaminated. We typically run that to Snyder landfill. Doesn't happen that often, but right now, we have no franchise on that roll-off. They could come to us, they could go to Knox, they could go to Republic, they could go to anybody right now and select who they would like to have a roll-off. And the thing I want to say about this, we're talking about residential refuse, commercial refuse, and a roll-off program. As a city council, you don't have to select all three for outsourcing. You can select 2 of the 3, 1 of the 3. You can do whatever you want. I would say that roll-off container program is not a real revenue generator for the city of Sweetwater. It does cost time and money to take the containers and pick them up and so forth. That would go away through a program if it's outsourced. And so I think it's pretty evenly, if it's type 1 waste, it's a pretty even rate schedule between the two, in my opinion, based on what I'm seeing here. One thing I'd like to mention also, in looking at what I see as a continuing program, we've done an expenditure, or I've done an expenditure working with Patty on what it would take, say that the program was outsourced. So we still have to maintain our 2 landfills. We still have our drop-off center. We have all that we have to take care of. And again, approximate numbers, did the best I possibly could to take a look at this. With what I see as revenue coming in and taking into account 12% franchise fee rates that we would receive if it was Republic Services providing the program, and 15% franchise fees if they were doing the commercial program, and 15 with the roll-off program. I see that we're at a deficit of about $190,000. That would be the additional cost that we have to find to maintain our landfills. So we have incoming revenue through franchise fee. We cover a lot of it, but we still have that to deal with. We still have that amount. If it was at a 15% or a little bit higher franchise fee rate, I think residential at 15 and commercial at 15, we'd be down to 154,000. So the higher you go with the franchise fee, the more that number comes down. So the point I want to make is we still have a deficit, but I also would say that long-term, we're going to have continuing costs of running our program if we don't put trucks on a capital improvement program on a recurrent basis and so forth. We're still going to be at a deficit even if we run our own program over time. That could happen. So we still have to make up some. That being said, and I guess I could state this at the workshop, one part we could work on, and I've talked to David just a little bit about this. So we don't really, Russell's been doing a lot of our abatements, all of our abatements, whether it's weeds and grass, which is the bulk of them, debris removal, and demolitions where properties have gone up for taxes, and now we get the management of those. Under a program like this, still having a cost of whatever, we can retool a little bit of what we would have for staffing to now create an abatement crew for debris removal and potential demolitions to help Russell. Maybe Russell's thinking, yeah, great, you know, but I mean, we could do that. We could build some capacity to handle that issue also with what we would have remaining for staff. If it got reduced a little bit, fine, but we still would have the ability to utilize what we have to manage our code enforcement a little bit better than we do. Meaning if we notified you of a property cleanup and you didn't take care of it within the allotted time, we can now go clean it up, put a lien on your property. We don't like doing that, but we have crews that do that. Russell's been doing that for the city. we could actually take this crew and retool and modify that to improve that area as well. At the same reduction, at the same deficit, it wouldn't cost any more than what we currently have for deficit. We'd have to figure out a way maybe to increase some fees to cover some of those costs. But anyway, I wanted to throw that out there because that's a possibility too. So what are you going to do with the people you still have running the landfill? We've got things that they can do. So there's a lot of information, and I don't know, David, if you want to add anything to, or any questions you might have of me, or council have any questions of me at this point?
I have one for Joe. I know that the economic portion of this proposal is very, very important. I mean, it's the centerpiece of it, right? But at the same time, there are non-economic benefits to going with Republic. Joe, I'd ask you, what do you guys do when you come into a community in terms of trying to work with businesses and community involvement and involvement in civic affairs and those types of things?
Yeah, so we do a lot, right? It's one of the things that we pride ourselves on. Our company is very into supporting the cities, particularly nonprofits, things of that nature, all our chambers of commerce. We're very active in all, what we try to do is see what's important to all of you, right? So if there's a near and dear to the city, we want to be a part of it. Obviously part of my job is handling our chambers of commerce and things of that nature, and trying to support anything that the city needs support on, right? We love the idea of, we love your little splash pads and things of that nature. We love to get behind stuff like that. We love to help with the fundraising and things of, so you have a very large team with us to help get out and garner support, right? And we want to see our communities, this is a partnership to us, right? It's not Republic coming in and taking over your program, right? These are partnerships. We want to watch cities grow, and we want to watch cities become successful. We want to have fun things for the kiddos to do. We want to have fun things for the adults to do, and we want to make sure that we get behind you as the leaders and help bring things to fruition. So, it's a great question. When you dive down in the minutia of finance, right? You kind of forget what is it really about, and it's about the people and servicing the people. And we are, we partner with nonprofits all over the country on a national level, but we do so much more on the local levels. So, and you will absolutely see us if we have the opportunity. You will absolutely see us at your functions. We buy tables and we come out as a team, and we are a part of our community. So, thanks for asking.
Will there be ordinances that we'll need to enact to implement this, to address it?
There would be. Number one would be the container rollouts. Mainly, if we went to the program, and we're going to go 95-gallon carts, they had to be a certain time that they'd have to be out at the street level for pickup, and they'd have to go back to the house. In many cases, people don't do that. They like to leave it out by their driveway. So we don't have an ordinance that specifies that they need to bring those back to the house and not leave them out in the street area for pickup. That's one ordinance. I think that's the main one. So there may be a couple other things that we need to do to, tidy up a bit, make sure that people understand they can't leave them out. Another, I guess, rules for debris and brush bulk pickup too. There's certain rules that would be in place that every community has, and it was in the proposal for Republic Services that you have to bundle your brush. It can't be more than 4 feet in length. You can have so many bags of leaves and that type of thing, and that can only be out there a certain time before it gets picked up. So otherwise it has to be somewhere else on your property. Now, the thing that we may fight there is that it'll probably end up in the alley. And then we're gonna have to then get into some more enforcement, education to assist those folks doing the right thing, putting that in the front. I think that as a resident, they probably wouldn't want all of that in the front yard for very long. It just takes away from, you know, things on that property, but we'd have to tidy up in those areas a little bit.
Excuse me. So I just wanted to touch on what Dana said. So with us, another thing I wanted you to know is we understand that there is potentially a change coming to a lot of folks, right? Changing up the service it always has some growing pains, usually a few months growing pains. But we help you with the mailers and all the information that's going to be out there, right? We don't just set a poly card at a home and say, hey, it's your customer. Prior to that, they will have, with your direction, the customer will have plenty of notice. They'll have, and we take care of it all. So we provide all the printouts and all, you know, we'll give them all the rules and all the kind of what is a bulk, where do you put it, how do we do it? We print all that up for you in a beautiful package and it goes to your customers. And we'll do that as many times as it takes for people to understand what all is involved in the change, right? So it's not going to be one Facebook blast from the city and Republic saying, hey, on such and such date, have at it, right? We are going to tee them up very, very early to let them know that a change is going to come, what that change is, what's required by them, right? So we'll help you with all that. And then we'll do another blast when it gets a little bit closer as a reminder. And then if we have to do more throughout the year, then we'll help you with it. But we do all the printing. We have people in Phoenix that's all they do. They're very good at it. And it's something that when they get it and see it, whether it's on social media or in the mail, it's something that they know they got something that they want to read. It's typically, you know, we all get quote unquote junk mail, but these are pretty nice and have a nice feel to them. And this is something that people actually want to look at, especially when they know a change is coming. It's full of a lot of great information. And that's just one of the other things that we offer. We take care of all that for you.
One thing I'd like to add to that I didn't. If you were to ask me, what's the biggest complaint that you receive regarding your refuse collection program? And I would say the 3-yard metal containers have blown out bottoms. So when the garbage is picked up, it doesn't go in the truck. It stays on the ground and you put the container back on the trash. And for whatever reason, we haven't been able to solve that. Poly carts, you don't have that problem. And so from a public health and safety standpoint, poly carts are a much better alternative, in my opinion, than those metal containers because of the rusts. We've all seen them. You have the flaps that are all bent and the bars that are damaged, and you know that's just from picking them up and putting them down. It's just wear and tear. Russell probably knows as much as I know. Those are that's a difficult maintenance item to continually buy and to fix those containers. And so when the flaps are up, guess what happens? The water gets in there and it's going to rust out at some point in time. That, and you get animals that you don't want in there and all kinds of things that just doesn't lend itself well to a neighborhood. That's why I think, in my opinion, the poly carts is a much better alternative than the 3-yard containers. May not be as convenient to a customer, but it's definitely better for the program. That's my thought on that, and that would go away. Now, it wouldn't from a commercial pickup standpoint because it would still be the metal containers. But we don't tend to have an issue with those as much as we do the containers in the alleys. So it's a big decision, almost monumental. We've talked about for the community. It's really come to a situation where what would you as a city council like to do? We've kind of laid out a lot of information out to you, and it's hard to get through all this really the way that we need to, but you know, by and large, I think it's Republic Services can provide the program. We can provide the program. I think one thing that I would ask you to think about is who's going to provide the best long-term program for the city of Sweetwater? What's the best long-term sustainability, you know, program? Who provides the consistent program over time? And I think that that's, in my opinion, that's the biggest question that we have here, in my mind. So we can do it as a city, but we'll have to continually replenish and put money into the program. There's costs that would go away. We would lose people if it went elsewhere. That being said, we don't have to go through the struggles of trying to recruit people where it's difficult. Drivers and maintenance people. Hard to do. Small community, just very difficult to do based on the competition out for employment. So those are other areas that we would benefit by if it was outsourced. But it's your call. And we're ready to do what you direct us to do. And so I would just leave it at that. And I'm done at this point.
Well, I've been in the transportation business for 40 years, and the pool right now of CDL drivers is the tightest I've ever seen it. By far. I mean, I can remember 30 years ago when I had people that were on a waiting list to go to work. That's not the case anymore.
Dana, what kind of plans do you have to gather up all of the dumpsters? And what do you do with them? What do we do with the existing trucks that we have? What plan do you have for disposing of all of the existing infrastructure?
Yeah, so I mean, I would tell you we'd have to find a location to store the cans initially. We would then find a source to sell them to. We have some decent ones that other communities would probably want to purchase. And then we would just get rid of the ones that are damaged. We would just take them out to our salvage locations and get what we can for them. That's kind of the plan on the containers. The biggest issue is finding a place to put them all. And we would have to work on some kind of program there. We've got land. We could probably lease some just initially to get them out there and then get rid of them over a period of time. The trucks, there's not, in my opinion, as much value for the trucks, though there are communities looking for older trucks. We would probably, they'd probably go for nothing practically. We'd auction what we can, get what we can for them, and they would go away. I don't think there's anybody really, except for the one that we're putting money into, or may put money into, that is probably something some community would want, but the other trucks, there's not much value there because of the age and as you mentioned or asked about the how long they've been running, the miles. We would have to get rid of them somehow.
I would guess 6 of those 7 trucks have got close to 1 million miles on them. Their life's gone.
Yeah, they've all got roughly around 300,000 on most of them. Obviously the commercial trucks, you know, run more than the residential trucks. And so they do have, you know, 300,000 or 400,000 miles on them. And Dana's right. We probably, if, you know, we had to get rid of them, we probably would get more money for scrap than auctioning them off.
Any other questions?
If we were to make a change, what kind of time period is it going to take? How long is it going to take to bring in the portable parts and get everyone set up with them?
Sure.
That's a lot of parts coming.
Yeah. So we had in the RFP, the timeline was that we wanted to dovetail this with our next fiscal year budget, which begins October 1st. we were looking at having the program started at that point. Now, our schedule's changed a little bit because in that schedule, we should have already had a decision made. We're probably 30 days past that or so. And so it'll be a little bit after October 1st, but I would think probably October, November. And I think we talked about it too. It would be a transition, moving the carts to replace the containers over a period of time where some residents will get the carts first, and then we'll work in the other residents later, probably in sections, probably based on when we do the pickups on the Mondays and Tuesdays. But Joe might be able to answer that better than I can. But even if the city did it, we'd have to transition in on the new carts. Probably over 60 to 90 days, we'd have it completed.
Yeah, it doesn't take too terribly long. So when given the decision and the instruction from council, whichever way it goes, if it's for Republic, then when that decision comes, the minute I walk out the door is when the work starts, literally, right? So people are on standby in situations like this when time is of the essence, always, especially when you get down towards the end of the year, right? So we have very good relationships with the folks who provide us with containers. And we put together, with their help, a timeline that was on page 20 of 145. So, and I know how these things work. You see a binder like this and it looks good. You just want to go to the rate sheet. So there's some minutia in there, but I did put in a time frame to meet your October 1 date. And I think the most important part is, one of the most important pieces is what Dana said. We would need a staging area as well, that we would work with our operations folks, who some of you met at the last meeting, particularly Jay, would work with you folks on where we could find a staging area. And if it's something we have to lease them, obviously, if it's a landowner or if any of you, or well, that wouldn't be right, but if anybody that had land large enough to put thousands of containers, then obviously, we have no problem with short-term leases and things like that. We have to do that all the time. But unless the city has a yard where we would help make the transition, and we would have a team here that they would just be doing that all day, every day. And so on page 20 of this, there is a timeline. Yeah. And it looks like on the carts, well, that's right. We're operating a month. So that's right. Be that as it may, the October 1 start date can happen with everything. The only caveat would be on the commercial containers, right? Those, the sooner the better on those, right? So what we're going to do in the interim is hopefully be able, since most of your commercial is front load, is that right? Most front load or all front load?
We have some side load where we have to.
So in the interim, it looks like for a few weeks, we would utilize the containers that are already on site, right? We would use those. And then when ours start to get delivered, we'll start swapping them out. And what that looks like is we have an entire team that comes in with flatbeds and forklifts, and they're just working all day long. So you will see them all day long, every day until it's done. And it doesn't take them very long at all. So, and then the polycarts, same way, right? We'll have them, they come in loads of 720, I think, something like that, 702. And so what we'll do is we have a staging point. The 18-wheelers will pull up, drop them. We have people on site that are putting lids on them, snapping the wheels on them, and then they're just going. So it's fun to watch. It's a lot of work, but it happens very, very quickly. I will say that because it's a dedicated crew and that's all they're doing. So it should be on the city's end, after we get the accounts set up and all that kind of stuff that needs to happen. On the city's end, it's fairly seamless for you. Not for us, but for y'all, you just get to watch. That's the beauty of it. So the deadline of October 1, if that's the wish of council, can certainly happen. But we work for you, so we'll start when you tell us to start.
Any other questions?
It's just a comment. I'm one of those who resist change. I'm lazy. Don't like the idea of putting that card out there.
Sure.
Once a week.
Sure. Yeah, so the switching to a cart from I'll give it to you why I think of it from both, because I'm also a citizen of a city that went to carts, right? That's my fault, but still, I live there, right? And the carts are going to provide this city with a much cleaner way of picking up garbage. The one thing that I'll say that Dana said is when you have the shared steel containers and you have somebody who's moving to town, right? And don't get me wrong, thousands of cities across the country that Republic handles are still doing what Sweetwater does today. So I'm not knocking it. We do it every day. But I will say that when they do make the switch to carts, there is always reluctance, always. But when you get used to it and you just bring that thing to the curb the night before, you will see how clean your neighborhood starts to look. It looks uniform, it looks clean. You can't change people's behavior, right? You can tell them that it needs to be out the night before and it has to be there by 7 a.m. in the morning. And there's always going to be folks that are just not going to do it and they're going to call in a missed pickup and we've already been by the house 2 hours ago. So it's hard to change folks' behavior, but I think you're going to see a majority of the folks are going to like it once they start seeing what it actually does to their community. When you have a container that is rusted out on the bottom, that has broken lids, which y'all have some of those, right? Some of them don't have any lids. When you have a rain event, and I'm just talking from the city's service, right? When you have a rain event and you don't have lids, what happens? The water goes in there. Not only does it rust out the bottom, but the trash soaks it up, so your garbage is even heavier. So you pay for garbage by the ton. So when you have rain events, you'll see your tonnage rates go up because they're wet, right? So you're weighing wet trash. It keeps rodents. So all the good things all the bad things that we think about that we don't like about our current service, once you start and see the new carts come in and people are using them properly and things are cleaner, you kind of go, it's not a bad deal. I mean, I have to roll 2 carts a week down. I get it. I mean, sometimes I don't want to do it, but it was certainly better than what I was doing before that, which is taking hefty bags and putting them on the curb. And I don't walk out on my way to work in the morning and see ripped open bags because of a cat or whatever, right? We all have those problems. But I get it. I mean, really. And I know that a lot of people are not going to want to lug this thing, down to the curb. But in all honesty, the new carts are built very, very well, and they're a lot less difficult to maneuver for a lot of folks. They're weighted well, they're sized well. So, I know that probably didn't help you out. I mean, some people just do not like them. But I think the community as a whole, as a leader of the community is going to look much, much cleaner and much better, especially people who have never been here before, that are moving here or thinking about moving here, that are driving the neighborhoods when they don't see containers sitting in somebody's front yard with no lids, that's rusted, that's a different color, and the one across the street's another color because this one was fixed and this one wasn't. This creates a much more uniform look for the entire city. The commercial side as well. Regardless of who does the service, if y'all keep it, you're going to do some upgrades and it'll benefit you as well. Whoever's picking up garbage, the service, we can all pick up garbage, but the uniform look to your neighborhoods and your commercial businesses and not having the headache, not having the headache, in my opinion, of having to swap out containers. And I went through a presentation back in December and put the cost together of what it costs to fix those, because we use side loaders too, we use front load, we use them all, right? And at $300 a container for somebody to sandblast it and weld it up and put a new bottom on, steel is still high. So it's just the these poly carts, they don't do that. I mean, we've got poly carts that, because we buy good poly carts, and we have poly carts that don't even give you a problem for 20 years. So I think the citizens are going to be much happier in the long run.
Probably disagree with that. But again, you still got the unsightly polycart in front of everybody's house, unless someone puts it in his garage.
Well, so yeah, there's some,
Not room in my garage.
yeah, there's some truth to that. I mean, the most people keep them on the side of the house someplace. Again, we can't tell you where you're going to keep your cart. I think most people are going to figure something out to where it's not obstructing their garage door or their gate to their yard or whatever it is. I mean, I've seen people build enclosures for them by their, air conditioning units and things of that nature. They put them in there's a myriad of things that you can do with those carts, but I completely understand where you're coming from. I do.
I've seen them in other towns. I always thought, well, that sure is ugly with all those polycarts in front of the house.
Sure.
But I would argue that it does not compare with what you see when you drive through the neighborhoods east of Hoyt. And I drive up and down Hoyt every day, and not counting dumpsters in the alley, counting dumpsters in the right of way, just going up Hoyt, there's 15 of them just as you drive by. Go through that neighborhood. It's terrible. I feel sorry for the residents that live over there. Now, I'm lucky. I've got a dumpster really close, but it's in the alley. There are people in those neighborhoods that are not lucky. They've got a dumpster really close, and it's essentially sitting in the front yard. These dumpsters not only collect garbage, they have trash. There's dumpsters in that neighborhood. They have mattresses, old carpet, furniture, piles of wood. I can't imagine a poly cart even comparing to how ugly those are.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to, I usually hate the word enforcement, but it comes down to that. And it's a culture change, community culture change, honestly. When I lived in Lawton, Oklahoma, we had poly carts. I didn't have to put it behind anything, but I had it right up to the house. Everybody did, but they changed to that program, and it took a little time, Larry, to get there. But it was an enforcement. It was like, education first. Please put your poly cart up to your house. We wouldn't put an ordinance together to say it has to go behind a fence or in your garage, but it wouldn't be able to be out in the street right away. Then the wind will get it, and it'll end up, possibly down the street. If it rains, you got a problem. And yeah, some communities are struggling a little bit when they're making that change to make sure that their people put them up to and it takes time. It's not going to all happen at once. It just never does, but it's a matter of how we go out there and educate and enforce, new ordinance that would let them know you have to have it up to the house when it's not pickup day. I remember taking the cart out, a heavy son of a gun, sometimes, but it worked. It made my property look nice because I didn't have to, I didn't leave it out there, and we didn't have any out in the street. So beautification is an important part. And I'll be honest, when I came to Sweetwater here, the first thing that I just noticed right off the bat were the containers in the streets. And I go, really? I've never seen that in another community, although I know it is in other communities. But it just kind of threw me, and I said, that probably needs to change at some point because they are not maintained very well around it. The public thinks we maintain it as a city. We don't go out there and cut around the containers. That's on their property. And then they do become places for mattresses and all that. And it's like, if I'm coming in, want to move to Sweetwater, I've got a job. I'm going to look at that. And I'm going to go, I'm not sure that that's what I like, and I'm speaking for others that first impression coming into a community like that, it's probably not the best. And I can speak to my experience on that. So, but it takes time to make that change. And it has to happen. So anyway, those are really valid concerns on the change.
If we do proceed with this, it's gonna be a big change. It's not meant as a criticism of city staff, but my biggest concern is gonna be the implementation. And like I said, not criticizing city staff, but I don't think our city staff is robust enough. I hope they are, but I have concerns that they're not robust enough to implement the change without it be smooth and as seamless as we want. I don't want to ask city staff to try and reinvent the wheel that Republic not only has invented, but they've refined. So I have concerns about the city.
And Dr. Peak, we take no offense to that because you're right. You're right. Republic and companies like Republic, this is what you do, Joe. And you've perfected the business. This is what you do all over the country. This isn't your first rodeo, like you said here in West Texas. And so going that route with a professional, dedicated firm, as opposed to the limitations that we have as city staff, because that's all you guys do, right? This is not all that we do. It's a part of what we do, but we do many, many more things other than solid waste services. But that's your business, and you're the experts, and that's the way I see it.
Yeah, so he's right? It's, I typically don't like to come up in front of cities and their leaders and try to tell people what they're doing wrong. That's not what we do, because you're not doing anything wrong, right? Your garbage program's fine. It just needs a cash infusion that is very, very difficult, especially these times. It's very, very difficult for cities to make that kind of commitment to themselves, especially during uncertainty, right? And, I'll reiterate, look, Republic is the second largest trash, recycling, and landfill operator in the nation. This is the only thing that we do. And we do it very, very well. And we ensure that your cities operate pretty seamlessly, right? There's always going to be hiccups. Oh, no one is perfect. We are not going to be perfect all the time, right? But I'm going to ensure that we're perfect on the recovery when a recovery is needed, right? We deal with people just like everybody else does. We don't have robots picking up the garbage, right? We have people. People are going to be sick, and people are going to, so things happen. But I will say, and I don't know if I've ever even mentioned this before, something about a program that we had when one of you was mentioning how hard, I think it was you, Mr. Mayor, that you were talking about how hard it is to find people to work, right? So we have our struggles, and everyone does. You have employees that are always looking for the greener grass, right? And so when that happens, we've got a nationwide program called, it's our SOS program. So we are never short on drivers. So when we put out an SOS, drivers come from all over the nation. We have people working the flood, the little storm that went through Brownsville area. We've got people from San Angelo and people from Abilene that are driving down there because their trucks were underwater, right? So we've got a program that is nationwide that is for that reason, right? You have to be prepared for any situation that can be thrown at you as a city leader. And it could be an act of God, and storms are always going to be coming through here, and you just never know what happens. And I think going with a company that's got some muscle behind it will ensure that your citizens are always going to be taken care of, right? So there is never going to be a time in this city where trash is on the ground, right? That's our promise to our customers every day, all over the nation.
Is Republic publicly traded?
We are.
Which exchange?
RSG. So it is, we're traded on the NASDAQ. It's RSG. So I would, it's doing very well. So you should check us out. Can I say that?
What's your ticker symbol?
It's RSG.
RSG. How many cities in West Texas did you do? I'm sure you went over this in the first presentation.
Yeah, I'll give you, I can be,
What are some sample, example cities?
so just the division that I oversee on the municipal side, we have 41. So we go all the way to Junction, Texas on the I-10 corridor and all the way to my division ends like right past Cisco, Eastland area, or the city of Cisco, most of the I-20 corridor up until Sweetwater. Obviously, we don't do Abilene, they do their own. But we go past Big Spring, the Midland office picks up, but just specifically to what we care about locally, we've got 41.
Give me some cities.
Gosh. So I'll start up in Monday, all the way up in Monday to Knox City, to Gorey, to Cross Plains, to Gorman, City of Clyde, City of Cisco, City of Roby. Where else? I think I said Baird. Did I say Baird?
Mhm.
We privatized Baird a few years ago. Baird used to do their own. We privatized Baird. Headed up to Winters, through Winters into Ballinger. We do the city of San Angelo, all the way up to Menard. So it's I can't remember if I said Ballinger or not. Do Ballinger.
Mhm.
Rising Star. Trying to think of ones that we all know. I think I hit most of them that we have right here in our backyard. So there's quite a few, and thousands across the country and hundreds in Texas. Our office here is run out of our area office. So Republic splits the nation into areas, and each area has a president that reports up to Phoenix to our executives. So Texas is so big, it's its own area. So we have it's called 6 South. And we operate out of Houston. It's where our area office is.
And you work out of San Angelo?
Yeah, so our division office, the main office is San Angelo, and then we've got our division office in Abilene. So I go back and forth. I live in San Angelo, but I go back and forth between the two because we have the landfill here and the landfill in San Angelo. So. And we do operate some of the largest cities in the country. City of Arlington, city of Las Vegas, one of our newest, Las Vegas. Complete, same thing that we're doing here. So we handle everything in Las Vegas. So we're everywhere. I think we do a pretty good job.
Trying to catch waste management.
Trying to catch, yeah, we're close. We get along very well, though. I'll say that.
Any other questions?
Well, Tommy, we are on the verge of, we have started the process of making quite a few changes in our community with code enforcement, demolition of substandard structures, and those all have been received real well, and I think the community wants us to build on those sort of things and those activities. And we're also fixing to step up and embark on a strategic plan for the city, comprehensive plan, correctly. And these are all require staff attention and staff activity, and I certainly, at least in my mind, think that those type of long-term activities probably need to have a higher priority than just the day-to-day picking up trash. And so outsourcing this service is going to free up city staff to focus on those kind of areas that are really going to make a much bigger change in our community.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, we'll now move to item 6, which is discuss and consider acting upon selecting a solid waste service provider and authorizing the city manager to negotiate an agreement to manage and operate solid waste management services in the city of Sweetwater.
So moved.
So move what?
I moved. Authorize city manager to negotiate an agreement to manage and operate solid waste services with
with Republic, okay? Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
All in favor? Aye. Is that you, Kerry? Okay,
Yes, sir.
motion carried and approved. Now can I get a motion for adjournment?
I make a motion.
All in favor?
Well, we got through this.